Hi, Lucy. Hi, Kevin. Hey. Can you hear me or no?
Hello?
Hi.
Beth.
How are you?
Good. I just emailed you a few sentences of a bio that I used for another one a couple of weeks ago.
Great. I also printed something that you, it was written about you in the some article I found. Which one? I'll use the bio. You want me to use that one before?
Whatever you want. I mean, the few sentences that I just emailed you is pretty succinct.
Okay, great. Oh, perfect. All right. Let's go print it.
For this purpose, so.
Awesome. Black and white. All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go print.
Okay. Guess that's her phone blowing up.
Hi, Eileen. Okay, I know you did. I'll send it to you. I get a lot of emails, people saying they didn't get the link. This is always how it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's at the 20th hour. And then someone said to me, oh, I would have bought wine. I'm like, you can after this.
Yeah, there were a couple people. There was one person that bought today, Catherine Zimmerman, and
Oh, yeah. But
she didn't pick up. She didn't respond.
Okay, don't worry. Forward. I need to send this to Uffy. Yeah, this is how it is, right? I mean, the link is here. Let me just see. So yeah, I'll introduce you. Let me just send this. And then you'll do your thing. And then I know people will ask questions. You know,
So if you could monitor the chat box.
I will.
And then you can interrupt me at any time.
No problem. I will. So that's awesome. And then, you'll definitely bring up that people can purchase the wine. They can call you, whatever, before Passover. Right?
Yes.
You'll bring that up.
And you'll remind me.
Exactly. I'll remind you. No problem.
Somebody's going to ask that question.
Oh my gosh, of course. Okay, do you need me to, I'm going to just make you co-host.
I need to be able to share the screen because I have a PowerPoint that.
Great, okay, so let me just make you.
You need me a co-host or.
I do. Let me just, no, I forget. Hold on one second. More. I'm going to make you co-host. Perfect. Okay. That sounds great. All right, so I made you co-host and you'll be good to go. And let me see who's all these people in the, oh yeah, they're in the waiting room, but I'll let them stay in the waiting room for a few minutes. Okay, so Kevin, this is Cucamonga Guasti?
Yeah, Cucamonga Guasti.
Cucamonga Guasti, holy cow. Okay, great.
Everything
Perfect.
else is English.
Okay, great. Yeah, so, and you know what? I think it would be not, you could tell them a little about yourself and your family and you live in, you know what I mean? I think you should, because there's people that aren't going to know you, you know? You know how people are. They like to know who they're dealing with.
Right.
Yeah. I think one of the rabbis, wait a minute, maybe Rabbi Andrews is coming on. He might be.
It's possible.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So if you need anything else, you'll tell me, but I shared your screen. I mean, I made you co-host, and then I'll spotlight you as well. Let me see who else is texting me. Okay. I'll let them in about 3 minutes.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm like.
And they're trying to talk to you immediately.
No, I'm gonna let Brent. Yeah, I'm gonna let Brenda in. Brenda Finberg, you know Brenda.
I'm here. I'm just.
Yeah. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Can't hear you. Muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
All good. All good. So everything is well. Of course, I've got like 50,000 people saying, send me the link, send me the link. I mean,
I think we have to try to send the link.
Twice.
Yes. I think I'll talk to everybody and see if they could do it. Like if it's Sunday, send it Sunday sometime during the day.
Or Sunday morning, because, we send it out Friday, and I have to tell you, before Shabbos, and everyone is losing the link. I mean,
I know.
everybody. It's so funny. There's just so many people that can't find the link. And every 5 minutes, they're texting me, do you have a link? Do you have a link? And I don't mind. And this has happened at every one of our events.
Even when I do things, yes, they lose it. Sometimes I do too. I go back through my emails and I can't find it.
I know. So this will be great. Kevin's gonna do his spiel, and then we're gonna, ask whoever wants to ask questions, which is nice. And I think this group, there'll be some questions, so we don't have to worry. You know what I mean? And anyone can think of any questions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It will be fine. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I picked up a lot of orders on Friday. I picked up like 9 orders, and then someone else asked me today, oh, I want to buy. So, it's just getting the word out. And Rance Block made a very good idea. He brought it up at the Bethel board meeting. He told Bethel they should be buying the wine from Kevin.
That would be lovely. And when they pick up, I have allergies. So when they pick up the wine, it could be at the JCC, correct?
Yeah, Kevin will talk about it. Yeah. But I'm saying, so Rance said, I
like that.
Coming on. Yeah, he's coming on with his 2 boys.
I'm going to share this first screen. People will see this as they come in with me. You see me in the picture?
Yes.
Where are you? Is that you?
The middle?
No, that's not me.
Okay. Well, then I guess I don't see you.
Where are you?
Maybe in a previous life. I'll explain it. Do you want them to see you initially? Or is this fine?
Whatever. Or you can put your logo up. Well, whatever you have at the top.
We'll just start with this.
Okay.
My logo.
Yeah, or we can, we'll welcome. Well, you know what? They're going to want to see everyone in the room.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll take this off, and then after you give me the intro, then I'll put this up.
Perfect. Right. All right. Let me see.
You want to start letting people in?
Yeah, I'm going to start letting people in. Allentown's always late. Mark and Eliette are in Florida. It looks amazing. Oh, Mark, it looks so sunny in Florida. You're muted.
Yes, it was a nice 81 degrees today and sunny.
Oh, Mark, it looks so nice there. Oh my gosh. Jealous.
Have you been vaccinated? Come on down.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to. Hi, Eduardo. Hi, Harriet. Hi, Aviva. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Rach. You're muted, Rach.
So I am. How are
Hi,
you?
sweetie.
Miss you.
I know, I miss you. I'm so glad to see you.
Yeah, you look great.
Oh, please, thanks. I told Kevin after the presentation, Rachel, I'll give Kevin your number and you guys should talk about the land. You'll talk.
Okay, great.
All right, so I'm letting people in. Okay.
All right. You don't mind if I don't share my video? I'm making dinner and stuff.
No worries. I'll call you tomorrow, honey.
Right, baby.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Or you can say hello.
Where's my girl? There she is. You're muted, Elliot. Al, you're muted.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, sweetie. Florida agrees with you.
I'm getting so bleached out here. It's a riot. But anytime anybody wants to visit, you're more than welcome. We have room for everyone.
Thank you. I'd love it. We'll talk about it. You look great. I'm so glad to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My relatives from Muncie all moved out of New York and moved to in different parts of Florida. So we're having a cousin reunion. It was supposed to be today, and then they decided to do it Tuesday. But it's really amazing how many of them have left New York now.
Oh my gosh. So they've all moved to Florida like permanently?
So I'll find out more on Tuesday.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad you're here. Love seeing you.
yeah,
Thank you
same
for
here.
getting us that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi, Beth.
Grace. Hi, Matt. Hi, Jody. Rance and Cheryl. Hi, Mick.
Hi.
Glad you got the link.
We finally found it.
Good. Yeah, I kept sending it to Uffy one.
I've never,
Yeah.
well, but Uffy wanted Gmail. Hi, you cuties.
Hi, Lovey. I sent it to you. I don't know why you didn't get it, but
I don't either, but all's well that ends in a well.
exactly. You made it on time, of course.
Hi, Elliot. Haven't
Hi,
seen you
how
in
are you?
ages.
I know. I haven't seen anyone, but
She's in Florida.
I'm in Florida right now.
Oh, too bad for you. Boo-hoo.
Well, if you want to visit, you're more than welcome. We do it in
I
the
love you. You're
We-
adorable. Hi- Your
we
kids
leave
are well?
at 4:30 in the morning, and we get here at 8 o'clock the same day.
She's crazy.
So tired, a little tired, but otherwise good, right?
Yeah. It is crazy, but you know, it's like running around all day long. You know, you run around all day long before you know it.
Yeah,
you're-
I know. Our grandkids just left. I know about running around all day long. This
Yeah,
is it's like, so sorry to see you leave, right? Actually, we were so sorry. We adore them, but it is so funny. They're nonstop.
Their energy, they sop up energy.
Well, you know.
from you.
Hi, Eddie. It's good to see you.
Where's Eduardo? There he is. Hi, Jeanette.
And my favorite teacher
Exactly.
in the world.
yeah.
Hi, Bobby. How you feeling?
Bobby, you're muted.
I want to take this.
Then I could have said anything. Everything's good, thank you.
Oh, you look great.
No,
So
thank
where's
you.
the winery? Where are you located? Where's the winery located?
I'll bet it's on that picture.
Is that Kevin?
Yeah, there's Kevin.
You're the
Yeah.
dude. You're the big wine dude.
He
Um,
is.
It's at 905 Harrison Street in South Allentown,
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy.
Bridgeworks Enterprise Center, where Hijink Brewery and Colony Meadery are.
Wait, say which eatery? Say it again.
Colony Meadery, where they make the mead.
Oh, meatery. M-E-
I don't.
Mead, it's honey wine. They make wine.
Yeah.
Oh, meadery.
Meadery,
Yeah,
M-E-A-D, M-E-A-D.
Not meader, meadery.
Meadery.
Right.
Nice of it.
It's a funny word.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right, we're waiting just for a few more.
Okay.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Bursons. Hi, Beth. Beth, is that the dog?
Yes, this is the famous dog.
Oh, the dog's here.
Ah,
Cute. Very cute.
All right, let's see what time it is.
The
It's
dog-
7:03. We're gonna give it a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Rance, I sent Andrew the link, so he should have it.
Yeah, it looks like he's on, so,
Oh, I didn't see him. There's
Yeah.
the
Hi,
link. Okay.
yeah, he just said hi.
Hi. Oh, Andrew, I didn't see you. I'm sorry. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Alyssa, twice in one day. Okay.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Beth.
And you too. Okay, we're up to 28. And we had hi Trace. We had close to 40 register, but you know how it is. Kevin, we'll start in another minute, and then as people come in, I'll let them in the waiting room. I'll let them in from the waiting room.
Let them season.
I don't know if you saw Alana Levy's husband died. The funeral was today. Yair died. He was not well for a while. I don't know if you knew Mayrav. That was one of my daughter Bonnie's best friends. That's Alana's daughter. Well, she had a couple of cutie pie daughters. Life, I'll tell you.
Okay, hold on one second.
You're on mute me.
You're good. Yeah, so basically we're going to introduce Kevin and Kevin's going to talk and then it's going to be a Q&A. So everyone feel free to ask questions. What you're going to do is you're going to type your question into the chat box and then I will ask Kevin the questions and he does not mind being interrupted. So as he goes, feel free to ask any questions.
Yeah, please ask questions, comments too.
Comments and questions, exactly.
How do you lower the volume? I can't find something to lower the volume on this, and it's
So Harriet, are you on an iPad or are you on a computer?
No, my computer. And
So-
I'm
Can you go above the keyboard? Is there a volume button?
there are, and they're not functioning. Let me
Oh,
just,
they're not. Why would the volume not be there?
whoop, I lost you. That there.
No, try, there's a little speaker at the bottom right next to the time. If you click on that little speaker, the volume should come up and you'll be able to lower it.
Okay, there's, say that again?
In the bottom right of, the very bottom right, do you see where it says the time?
No.
Rand, she might be on a different, Harriet, what type of computer are you on?
It's an iMac desktop.
Oh, iMac, I don't have Apple.
It would be above your keyboard. If you tap the top, it's the volume, but it's not letting you touch it.
No.
Why would the volume be? I don't know why your volume, I don't know why your volume would be disabled. You've never,
No, I've not had a problem before.
no, that's weird. Maybe one of the kids touched it.
Go to the right top and you're gonna see a speaker. It's not working, both of them. There should be two. Those are the only two buttons that work on that.
Okay, just a minute.
Harriet, did you get it?
Harriet, the last two buttons on the top row.
Nope. Now I'm on.
Audio settings,
Where's that?
the bottom thing.
Wait a minute. Audio settings.
Right, okay, we're gonna get started. So if
That's it.
anyone wants to mute,
Found it.
you guys can mute. Did you find it, Harriet?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna spotlight Kevin. And then I'll watch the, I will watch the waiting room. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight for our JUniversity event with Kevin, Danna, and the Binah Winery. Kevin's a native of Southern California's historic Cucamonga Guasti wine district. Binah's winery owner, winemaker Kevin Danna, now finds himself making wine in his vintner great-grandfather's home of Pennsylvania. A former assistant winemaker at Berks County Pinnacle Ridge Winery, Kevin received a college-level education in the sciences of enology and viticulture after earlier undergraduate studies in architectural engineering at the Penn State University. We have some Penn State fans on. Before finding a passion for winemaking, Kevin's prior career in architectural lighting design left the lasting influence of an elite design philosophy, which continues to shape Kevin's approach to winemaking as an art and a science. So Kevin, I thank you for joining us tonight, and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Beth, and thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. I should say Chodesh Tov to everybody. Good new month of Nisan. And if any of you are enjoying any of the wines that you got from us during this event, you know, the whites should be chilled. The Chambertin should be ever so slightly chilled. So that's my public service announcement. Okay, so here we go. A journey through winemaking. The journey begins here in the Cucamonga-Guasti Wine District, an area about 40 miles east of Los Angeles, California. It doesn't look like this today. Now it's mostly houses and commercial development. But from the late 1800s to the 1950s, there were 20,000 acres of vineyard planted in this once inhospitable desert area. This was the largest wine producing area in the United States long before the vineyards of Napa Valley were established. And Secondo Guasti advertised his 5,000 acre vineyard in Ontario as the largest in the world. So you might ask yourself, why are we beginning our journey here? Well, here at Binah Winery, our philosophy is built largely on the idea that our world is small after all, and that grapevines are in their way trying to tell us something about the interconnectedness that permeates all. Wine is something that is a long-term thing. It spans generations. It brings generations together, and it shows us we are part of something bigger than ourselves. So again, we're starting here for a few reasons. The first being that winemaking in America has its roots in this place. All of what constitutes winemaking in America today, from Napa Valley to the Finger Lakes, is because of what happened in this desert area in Southern California during the early 20th century, when Italian immigrants turned this desert wasteland into a cultivated paradise, the empire of American winemaking. The second reason we're starting here is that I am a native to this place, as Beth mentioned. I was born in this area in the 1980s, and by that time, much of the area had been developed. At that time, we lived alongside what remained of this winemaking region. Since then, development has further prevailed and only a few hundred acres of vineyard remain. The third reason we're starting here has to do with Italian immigrants, as I mentioned. During Prohibition, this wine region thrived where others crumbled because they shipped their high sugar grapes to the East Coast, where Italian immigrants had the tradition of making their own wine a barrel at a time. My paternal great-grandfathers were immigrants from Sicily, and they, like so many others, bought the California Zinfandel grapes by the half ton and made a barrel of wine with their family. Now I remember, hold on a second. There we go. That's just another picture of Cucamonga. That's what it looked like when it was all vineyards. Now it's not much vineyards, it's more houses and commercial development. But you can see the quantity of grapes that they were harvesting there in their heyday in the 30s and 40s. And here they were packing those boxes of grapes that they would ship by rail car, by train back to the East Coast, where, as I said, Italian immigrants would buy them and make wine at home with their family and friends. So now I remember when I was a little kid going to visit one of my great-grandfathers. We called him Nanu, and he had his old wine barrels in his basement. He had stopped making wine at that point and they were empty, but he would ask me, "Where's the wine?" To which he would reply, "You drink it." Pointing a finger at me. Of course, this was only in jest because I was a little kid at the time, but I understood the joke nonetheless. And to this day, I remember that. Okay, so the wine has been with me. Some say it's in my blood, but we'll have to fast forward a couple of decades because I was a kid and wine was an alcoholic beverage and I obviously didn't drink much of it. So we fast forward to my early 20s and I was just out of college and I was starting to become more observant. I grew up more conservative, but started to go towards more orthodoxy, I guess you would say, in my later years of college. And so when I got out of college, I found myself, observing Shabbat in a more, shall we say, orthodox traditional sense. And of course, we know on Shabbat, we make Kiddush over wine. So I found myself drinking more wine. And I started to spend more money on wine. And the more I spent, the better bottles I got. And I found that I really got something out of wine. I found that I had a really good palate and noticed a lot of nuance in the wine, and that it really spoke to me. And I lived in an apartment down there, and my wife and I were down there at the time. And as Beth mentioned, I used to be an architectural lighting designer. So at the time I was doing that. I took a job down. We were in Alexandria, Virginia, Arlington, Virginia, Northern Virginia, just outside of DC. for about 5 years after I came down from Penn State to take a job there. And but I was drinking a lot more wine and got really interested in it. And I had known that my great grandfathers had made wine, and I remember my grandfather and my father talking about that growing up, their memories of making the wine. So the more I got into wine, I thought, well, maybe I should make wine. And my wife, Sarah, who I think is somewhere here on the call or the Zoom, I should say, remembers that. And but we were in an apartment, so we really couldn't make any wine. But when we moved up here to Allentown, I guess about 7 years ago, 2013, late 2013, we moved here. We had a house and we had a basement. So now it was possible for us to get serious about this. So I picked up this glorified hobby of winemaking. And I remember asking my grandfather and my father, how did you guys used to make the wine, just so I could get my bearings a little bit. And, they kind of remembered and laid out the general process. And in fact, my grandfather had my old great grandfather's half-ton wine press in the basement for years. I can remember as a kid.
Kevin,
Yeah.
while you're talking about your grandfather, there was a question about them being from Sicily. Was there much of a Jewish community there? People want to know.
Well, at one time, yes, there was a huge Jewish population in Sicily and Italy, as you know, after the exile of the destruction of the Second Temple. However, my father's family was Roman Catholic. They still are. I don't know if there's any Jewish roots there or not, but that's that. Yes, there was a huge Jewish population in Sicily at one time. Yeah. And you'll see as well as we talk that Jewish culture and Italian culture for sure has very much in common, from wine to food to talking a lot and jokes. We'll get to that. Yeah, so my grandfather had taken apart the old press and threw it in the trash a couple of years before I came along asking questions, which is interesting timing. But he did have this small fruit press that they used to use. So he gave me this, and we used this the first time we made wine in 2014. So I remember we got about 20 of our friends over, and they helped us destem about a quarter ton of grapes we got. There was a homebrew winemaking store in Bethlehem at the time called Keystone Homebrew. They've since closed that location. They're still in Montgomeryville, but they had grapes from South America, and we bought about a quarter ton, spring of 2014. Got some friends over. We started making some wine. People are really into it. There's a lot of wine drinkers here in Allentown. People appreciate wine. So when I talked about this, we're going to start wine. And even from the earliest days, I had this idea that we were going to start a boutique kosher winery here in Allentown. So people were really enthusiastic in the community and pitched in. So we used this fruit press, and the first time we made wine, it was terrible because I didn't know what I was doing. But you learn from your mistakes in wine, and you learn from making the wine. So we kept going. You can see here that it was very small when we started. I only made about 25 gallons, maybe the first year, and then doubled that to about 50. And then we were starting to make 100 gallons of wine. But like I said, I was pretty serious from the kind of looking for a career change from lighting design. I really enjoyed doing the lighting, but it was a desk job, and I like to work with my hands, and was just kind of looking for something else to do. So as I was transitioning out of that and was very serious about starting this winery at some point, I discovered that there was a 2-year online program to learn enology, which is the science of winemaking, and viticulture, which is the science of growing grapes, that was offered through Harrisburg Area Community College at the time. It's now through Penn State Berks, I think. But in 2014, I enrolled in that program. And as part of that program, we had to do an internship. So the summer of 2015, I got hooked up with Pinnacle Ridge Winery in Kutztown, which is about 15, 20 minutes west of Allentown here, and worked there over the summer, and then a harvest, and then eventually stayed on to become their assistant winemaker. So this picture you see here was one of the first days that we were harvesting grapes. This was Chardonnay that we were doing for their Cuvée Chardonnay, so sparkling wine. So Pinnacle Ridge and Brad Knapp, whose feet you can see in the background there, the owner, they really specialize in sparkling wine, and especially the méthode champenoise, which is the traditional method of making sparkling wine in Champagne, France. So I was very fortunate to learn that, and we actually just bottled some sparkling wine today. So maybe later this year, in a few years, we'll have it ready to go. So I stayed on with Pinnacle Ridge, and I was making wine there and making wine at home in parallel. This is my oldest son, Lev, who may be here on the Zoom somewhere. Came to visit, I think, one summer with the family. That's when I was at Pinnacle Ridge. So I was at Pinnacle Ridge, and I was making wines there, and was making wine at home, as I said. And like I said before, learning how to make wine is really hands-on. So I was in school, and we had textbooks, and you can read the textbooks on winemaking, but you really can't learn how to make wine from a textbook. You really have to get in there. It's very much an iterative process, just like I experienced when I was doing lighting design. You throw something on paper, you change it up, you see where it goes and how it develops. So when you're making the wine, like I said, there's a very fine line between making a really great wine and making a bad wine. And the only way you discover where those lines are through making the wine and making mistakes. So the more wine you make, the more mistakes you make, you learn from them. So at the height of it, I think in 2017, I was making about there was about 25 lots of wine at Pinnacle Ridge, and I was probably making about 15 wines at home at the time. So between that, there's like 40 wines in 1 year. So I was making a lot of wine, making a lot of mistakes, and learned very, very quickly. And that's how I was able to progress in my winemaking skills so fast. So like I said, we were making wine at home as well at Pinnacle Ridge. This was harvest of 2018. So this was the last harvest that we did at home. And this was a friend of ours, Moshe Foreman, who was a Muhlenberg student at the time, that came to Sons of Israel. So he was very much interested in wine. So he actually came to help me. So here we are loading up my very small press here, some crushed white grapes, making the wine.
Kevin, where do you get your grapes from? That's a question that someone had asked.
So these grapes are kind of a segue to what's about to happen next. So these grapes I purchased from, there was a vineyard in Easton. A man by the name of Jack Fulton had planted a 5-acre vineyard on his property back in the 80s. And for decades, he sold grapes to home winemakers. So I think these grapes came from that vineyard. So that was one source. As I had said before, Keystone Homebrew was a source of grapes. And this was the last harvest we did at home. And then it was time. It was kind of a question in my mind for a lot of years as I was Pinnacle Ridge. I want to make this winery. I was working on the business plan, and am I ready? Do I know enough? Is it the right time? You never know when it's the right time to go and jump off the cliff and start your own business. But at some point in 2018, early 2019, it was time. And actually, this vineyard in Easton that I had bought grapes from in previous years, Jack had gotten older and couldn't take care of the vineyard anymore, and they were looking for someone to come in and take care of the vineyard and lease it. So there was this opportunity, great opportunity, lease this vineyard, and I left Pinnacle Ridge in late February of 2019, and then found myself without a job and a paycheck, standing in this vineyard in the snow, in the freezing cold. And I had about a month, maybe 6 weeks, to get this vineyard pruned before it started to bud and started growing. So I'd come out and stare at this, what looks like a massive, huge vineyard when you're standing in there. Just totally, there's thousands of vines in there, and they all had to be pruned before bud break in late April. So it was this very overwhelming sense of, okay, I just jumped off a cliff, quit my job, I'm starting a business, leased a vineyard, now I have to take care of it. And it's all riding on this, that these are our first wines for being a winery are going to come out of this vineyard. There's me pruning. And we kept going. And this is my dad. He still lives in California, but he came back and helped me for about a week there to finish it up. And we got it finished just in time. And I took about a week off just to take a break, maybe a few days. I don't even think it was a week. It was a few days. And I came back, and then the vine started doing this. So this is bud break. So these are the new shoots growing out of the old trunk of a vine. So this is what they look like when they emerge in late April. And then they start to get bigger, and they're very pretty when they come out. And they start getting bigger. So you can see here the first few leaves of the shoot, and those kind of pine cone looking things. Those are the flower clusters, and those are what become the grape clusters later on. So that kind of overwhelming sense that I had, pruning is now becoming like total panic, because now the vineyard is growing and I have to take care of it for real. So this is a lot of days where I would come and this was my new job. I would be here all day long, 10, 12 hours. And some of the days were really beautiful. But it rains here a lot in Pennsylvania. So some of the days it was like you're standing out there in the rain, and those weren't as fun as these days. But I should say that, so Pennsylvania is a cool climate wine region. We have cold winters here, and it's very humid in the summer. We get a lot of rain. So there's a lot of disease pressure from fungal disease. So we do have to spray the vineyard for fungicide. So I had to start spraying the vineyard, cutting the grass and really taking care of this thing. We still had friends who were very, very enthusiastic with the project. So they would come out and volunteer and help out a little bit. Here's me cutting the grass. So I had to get the tractor and, go out and cut the grass, which was actually one of my favorite things to do, because I get to drive through the vineyard and see all the vines and see what was going on, and see the progress. So I really like cutting the grass. So this is what it starts to look like in the summer, the vineyard. And you can see here, so you see there's a lot of weed growth under the vines. So like I said, this is a very wet climate. And this was especially a vineyard that was on a site that I knew had a tendency to have very vegetative growth in the vine. So what I mean by that is a lot of shoots, a lot of leaves. And this tends to produce vegetative wines, underripe wines. So one of the approaches that I wanted to try out with this vineyard was letting the native vegetation grow. And what happens is they take up some of the water from the rain, and they cause the vines to struggle a little bit more. And this is actually a good thing, because grapevines like to struggle. They actually produce better fruit, better wine, more concentrated flavors.
Interesting.
Thing. So there's my wife, Sarah. She came out and helped. So this is the height of the summer when the vineyard's just totally doing its thing and growing. So we had people, family, friends would come out and help us. And we got to the end of the summer. And then, so this was our first day harvesting. So this is Ben Grossman. If anybody knows him, he came out to help with grapes. We were picking red grapes, I think, for our sparkling rosé that we actually just bottled today. So here it was. We finally got to a harvest. And so, however many years it was, 5 years in the making, this idea that we were going to start a winery, being a winery, was finally here. We were going to harvest the grapes and make the wine. So we were harvesting. So you hand pick the grapes into these lugs, and then we'd haul them up, and we'd put them in the press. So we were going to we did a whole cluster pressing there, which you use for sparkling wine. So that's me loading up this press. So this was the first home of Binah Winery. This was an area that was kind of in a barn on that property, this private property where they had this vineyard over in Easton. So they had this small basket press, and they also have this larger press that you can see in the background here.
So Kevin, the winery that you purchased or leased the grapes and the vines from, did they have employees that were working there?
Oh, so no, it was my responsibility as the leaseholder to take care of the vineyard, and about 85% of the work of this 5-acre vineyard was me. But I had help from family and friends came out and helped a little bit. But that's a very, very large vineyard for one person to take care of. So, but I had to do it. Here's me as the entrepreneur. pouring my time and blood, sweat, and tears, literally, into this vineyard because this is what we had to do to make the wine. So yeah. So this is actually a cluster of Chardonnay. So I don't know if anyone has had our Chardonnay, but the 2019 Chardonnay came from these grapes. And here you can see there's the very golden color on the skins of these grapes. And this was the approach that I had, aside from the weeds, was really exposing these grapes to the sun, because the sun exposure really brings out a lot of really ripe flavors in the grapes. So if anyone's drinking the Chardonnay, these are the grapes.
That's making noise over there.
Now this is Chardonnay. So if anyone is drinking the Stella, these are Chardonnay grapes. They're a French-American hybrid. One of their parents is Chardonnay, so it has a lot of the characteristics of Chardonnay. So French-American hybrid grapes. So here's the story on this. So grapes that come from Europe are from the species Vitis vinifera. So those include grapes like Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Riesling, all those things that we're really used to. They're native to Europe. In America, North America, you have the native American varieties, so Vitis labrusca and Vitis riparia. And so Concord, so if anyone's familiar with Concord, that has a lot of American heritage in it. It's very foxy, grapey flavors, very, very different from the grapes that you get Vitis vinifera in Europe. French-American hybrids are a crossing between the two. They were developed because phylloxera had hit Europe. It was an insect that basically destroyed the vineyards. One of the solutions was to create French-American hybrids. Another solution was to graft the vines of Vitis vinifera onto American rootstocks. American rootstocks are resistant to phylloxera insects because that insect is native to America. These grapes were resistant to it. So they kind of married the two together. And also French-American hybrid grapes are just much more disease resistant, which is important in the humid climate that we have here in Pennsylvania. And they're very much cold hardy. So they can take very cold temperatures in winter without the vines weakening and dying. So they're very prevalent. They're widely grown in Pennsylvania, Missouri, down even into Virginia, and especially up in the Finger Lakes, New York, into Canada. So this is Chardonnay. This is a French-American grape. And here you can see how ripe that skin is. That really dark copper color really gave us really tropical flavors that if anyone's drinking the Stella right now, you will for certain pick that up. And so this is me driving through the Chamberson. This was getting towards the end of that harvest in 2019. So if anybody's drinking the Chamberson, the grapes you're seeing here in the picture, that's what that wine came from. So it was a Geneva double curtain training system here. So this is the way each vine is actually split into two rows and the fruit's up top. It's kind of a different way of doing things, but it was very well suited to this site. You get a lot of sun exposure and you get much more ripe flavors in the wines.
Kevin, did you have an issue dealing with the lantern flies?
Yeah, well, they were in there. This vineyard didn't have a very large population of them at the time. They were in there, but they weren't at such a population that they really were a problem here. So I kind of just learned to live with them. A lot of the vineyards around here have learned to live with them. You know, there's sprays that we can spray for them to keep the populations in control if they really start to explode and get out of control. They actually like to kind of nest in the wooded areas, in woods, in trees, and the tree of heaven they really like. So this vineyard had a lot of woods surrounding it. So they come into the vineyard. So you can try to get rid of them in the vineyard. They will just come back. There's no way to get rid of them. Years back, about 5 years ago in Berks County. So the spotted lanternfly is an invasive pest insect that was introduced here accidentally. It's native to Vietnam and South China. Somehow it got introduced into Korea. And the story is that a landscaper in Berks County got some stones in from Korea, and these insects hitched a ride, and that's how they ended up in Berks County. Now, there were some vineyards in Berks County that were totally wiped out because those vineyard owners didn't know what was happening until it was too late. Now that we know what's going on, there's a lot of research. We're able to control that pest and live with it. They feed off the vines, they weaken the vines, and then when you get a really cold winter, the vines die basically. So yeah, they're there. They're here in Pennsylvania. They're down into Virginia. They've even found, I think they found some dead ones in Oregon. So it's only a matter of time before they're all across America. That's the way life goes, I guess. So these are my in-laws. So like I said, we had a lot of help doing the harvesting. I couldn't do the harvesting myself. We picked about 16 or 17 tons of grapes. So a ton is 2,000 pounds of grapes. So it was a lot of grapes. We made about, this was about 3,000 gallons that first year, which translates into roughly shy of 1,000 cases. There's 12 bottles in a case. So there's something like 11,000, 12,000 bottles that we made our first year, 2019. So this was the harvest of the Chamberson, getting towards the end. This is Bob Danna, if anybody knows him. He helped out. So he's actually dumping the grapes. We would bring them down the chute, and he would dump them into this machine. So this machine is a destemmer crusher. So, when you eat grapes, you take them off the stem, right? And usually when we make wine, we like to remove the grapes from the stem because the stem has a lot of tannins in it and more astringent tannins. And if you include all of the stems, with very rare exceptions, sometimes we include all the stems, but for the most part, we like to take them off the stems. You make a better wine. So this machine goes in and it kind of spins the grapes around in this kind of basket cylinder. All the grapes pass through the holes and the stems come out the other end. And then the grapes go into a press first for white wine making, and we press the juice off and then ferment the juice. That's how you make white wine. For red wine making, we just crush the grapes and we ferment them on the skins themselves, because usually the colors in the skin of the red grapes, and that's how we get the colors. So you'll ferment them for up to a month, 2, 3, 4 weeks, the red fermentations, and then we'll press it. So it's already wine once we press the red wine off.
Evan, there's a question. What makes your wine kosher?
Yeah. So there's a couple of components to kosher wine. So we're certified kosher by the OU, as well as the local Lehigh Valley Kashrut Commission, the LVKC. So as we know in Judaism from the Torah, there's certain things that are not kosher. A lot of it has to do with animals. So we have to be very sensitive to the ingredients. So in winemaking, there's what we call fining agents, clarifying agents, and a lot of non-kosher wineries will use things like gelatin, isinglass, things that are derived from shellfish to clarify the wines. It all gets removed eventually, but from a kosher perspective, we can't use that kind of stuff. We also have to be very careful because the wine's kosher for Passover, so we can't use certain yeasts that are grown on, chametz. So if they grow it on grain, we can't have that. We have to be very sensitive to sugars and stuff that we use. So one aspect is the ingredients. The other aspect has to do with who makes the wine. So to be kosher certified today for many of the major Orthodox kashrut supervision organizations, you can only use Sabbath observant Jews from an Orthodox perspective. And the reason for that has to go back to the Torah. There's a prohibition for Jews to consume any wine that was used in idolatry. So in ancient times, they used to have pagan idolatry. It's not so prevalent anymore. Maybe there's a few people. But any wine that was used for idolatrous purposes, a Jew could not drink or even sell or anything. So one of the ways we get around this is, well, we have the Jews make the wine. And if we have Jews make the wine and they're, religious, they're religious Jews, then we know that they weren't doing idolatry, because you for the most part would not, be doing Judaism and idolatry. So those laws, those ancient laws come down today, at least in Orthodox Judaism. So we only allow Shomer, Shabbos, Sabbath observant Jews to handle the wine. The exception is mavushal. So this is, if you turn the bottle over, you'll see under the OU, it says non-mavushal. And mavushal in Hebrew means cooked. So one of the ways to get around this was, so if you cook the wine in ancient times, basically it could not be used for the idolaters would not use that kind of wine in their religious rituals, and Jews wouldn't either. So mavushal means cook. So nowadays they don't cook the wines. What they do is they flash pasteurize the wines. So they'll run it through a heat exchanger and heat it up to like 180 degrees very briefly and then cool it back down. And there's a lot of kosher wineries that do mavushal. We do non-mavushal. So that's kosher wine in a nutshell. So here we are loading up. This was getting towards the end of the season. You can see we're wearing, hoodies and sweatshirts. It's getting cold early November. This is probably November when we started to press the reds. And here's loading up the bigger press. So here it's already fermented. That's red wine. And we're going to extract the wine now from the grapes, squeeze it out. It collects in the bottom of this press, and then we pump it into a tank to age. So that was that lease of that vineyard in Easton. I didn't renew the lease because it was just too much for me to take care of a vineyard and try to start this winery, try to start a new business, be an entrepreneur. And I needed to focus on the winery aspect. That, in addition to the fact that it was a very limited space that I was working out of over there in Easton. It was only like 300 square feet. So there was only really enough room to do this harvest and get the bulk wine into tank. It's a private property. They didn't want me selling wine out of there. So we knew that there was always going to be a second location of Binah Winery, something that we would grow into. So I went about trying to find a place. I knew I wanted an urban winery. I knew I wanted to lease space. And I thought, well, it's the Lehigh Valley. There used to be a lot of manufacturing here. So I should have no problem finding a small warehouse, light industrial space. Well, I went about, turns out there was nothing. There was very little of anything. We happened to know some people, and kind of the right connections just fell into place at the right time. And so at the Bridgeworks Enterprise Center and here in South Allentown, which is a small business incubator, they had a space open, which you see here. This is what our winery looked like a little over a year ago before we moved in. So here they were working on it and getting it ready. So this was a building that used to be a Mack Trucks factory. It's over 100 years old. But the Allentown Economic Development Corporation, who I am a tenant of and client of, converted this old factory that wasn't used anymore back in the 80s to a small business incubator especially for manufacturing. So they kind of divided up the building. It's a very, very large building. If any of you have been here, they divided up into smaller suites, basically. So this was the last one that they had open. So it was such good timing. And I should say, every stage of this from, go back to 2014 when we had this idea to start this winery, and it seemed like such a crazy idea at the time. All of the things that fell into place at the right time and meeting people at the right time and making all the right connections, it's some kind of a mirror. It's meant to be. I did the work, but, things just fell into place. It's really incredible. So this was the space. And we had to get it really fast because I had to be out of the old place about a year ago. So we went a couple months to get this place ready and turn it into a winery.
Kevin, tell us how you got the name Binah.
So the idea behind Binah, so Binah is a Hebrew word. It means understanding. Sometimes it's translated to intuition, or things that had to do with perception and stuff like that. But usually the translation is understanding. So if anyone's familiar with, the mystical aspects of Judaism or Kabbalah, that Binah is one of the 10 sefirot. I have a strong interest in the mystical aspects of Judaism. It kind of shapes my philosophy on Judaism. So it was kind of a nod to that on one hand. And also, for me, wine, the making wine, consuming wine, just my whole experience of wine, like I've said, alluded to throughout this presentation, is that it brings you to this understanding of our world and this sense of being part of something bigger than ourselves, because wine is a long-term thing. You make wines and they can last for 30, 50, 100 years and people drink them, and it really spans generations, brings generations together and gives us a sense of the greater world that we're in. And especially when I was in the vineyard, and you're so reliant on the weather and everything, and you're standing out in the vineyard, you just get this sense of interconnectedness with the world that I didn't get sitting at a desk job. So yeah, it has to do with my experience of wine, and as I said, so we had to move from Easton. So we have all this wine, and I mean, wine weighs 8-9 pounds a gallon. We've got 3,000 gallons, and our biggest tanks were like 300 gallons. So those easily weigh a ton apiece. So we kind of had this logistical issue of how do we get all this wine over to Allentown, a half an hour away. So we rented a Penske truck, and we put an empty tank on the truck, and we pumped the wine from one tank to the next, and then we'd repeat until we got a truck full of wine, and then we drove it over to Allentown. And we did that 3 or 4 times. And there's a very small amount of Pinot Noir that we had from that vintage that fit in the cab. And so we brought the wine over. And so this was about a year ago when we moved in, March, yeah, pretty much a year ago. And then there was kind of this huge rush to get some wines bottled right before Passover. So this was like a couple of weeks before Passover last year. We're bottling our rosé in a new space. Here you can see bottling. So everything's done by hand over here at our scale. You put these bottles in the machine and they fill them up, and we take them off and put a cork in by hand and then pack the cases. And then I labeled them. So this was last year. So 7 years in the making from this idea that we were going to have this winery, all of this work throughout the years and all these things that came together at the right time and for this to come together, this business. And then all of a sudden, this was the first bottle and I was holding it in my hand. And it was like, this was the moment when it became real. Here we are, we have a winery and we have product to sell. And there was more of it. So that's our 2019 rosé. So we just kept going. We kept bottling wine last year. Because harvest of 2020 is quickly approaching. So harvest season starts late August, September, October. So there was this huge rush to get things bottled and open up the tanks again. And the whole idea is that we were going to expand and double in capacity. And in fact, we actually more than doubled in capacity this year. So I had to go get some more tanks. So Pinnacle Ridge, where I used to work, is actually, they closed. Well, they sold the brand to Allegro Wines. And then, so Brad was retiring, but he sold the equipment off. So I was able to purchase some of their used tanks here. So you can see this is our space that we're in now and some of the tanks. So those tanks are right behind me here, actually. And I bought their press. This is a bladder press. So I'm able to process about 4 tons of crushed white grapes. So this is a much larger scale than anything that we had done. Even 2 years ago with that little press that you saw on our porch, this is much, much greater scale. We got some barrels. That's me at Pinnacle Ridge, picking up some barrels, branding the new stuff. And you can see, so we're bringing in a lot more grapes. This was September of 2020, so just about 6 months ago. So we have the forklift over here, and that's a half ton of grapes. And we probably brought in close to 40 tons of grapes this year. So we're processing grapes now, making wine on a scale that, just within 2 years, how large we grew is just incredible.
A couple of questions have come in, Kevin, if you don't mind. Let me just how long does the wine have to sit before it can be sold?
It depends. So white wines, rosés, they could be ready within a couple months after harvest. We bottled our rosé last month, about a few weeks ago, and we're selling it now. So some of you may even be drinking that rosé. So that's usually the quickest you can get some of the wines to market is a few months. That's very, very fast. Usually it's your lighter whites, your rosés, your fruitier style, lighter bodied wines. And then we'll progress through that and get to more full-bodied whites. And then reds, usually it's the summer by the time we bottle them. But that's not to say you have to bottle everything before harvest. And this year we probably won't. Some of our reds will probably stay here in bulk and barrel and tank, and we might not bottle them till next year. Wines improve with age. Not all wines improve with age, but the reds certainly do for the most part. And some of your fuller bodied whites. Usually when we bottle a wine, our whites all start selling within a couple weeks. They're totally drinkable at that point, and it's probably best to drink them very early on, within 1 to 2 years. The reds usually improve with some aging in the bottle. So like our Cab Franc, we just started selling, but we bottled that back in August. So that had 6 months in the bottle, and it improved greatly. There's some reds that you might age for a year or two in the bottle before you start selling them. And then even after that, they will improve year after year until they peak. Some wines can peak 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, or even more than that. So it really depends on the style of wine, whether it's a white, a red, rosé, how it's made, whether it's a full-bodied red from a hot climate versus a lighter red from a cool climate like we have here in Pennsylvania. So it really depends.
Great. A couple more questions. How do you choose your grape suppliers?
Okay, so in 2020, I switched to buying grapes completely. I got out of that vineyard lease. I didn't grow any grapes this past year. And I went around to vineyards within the region. So I got grapes from Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, here in the Lehigh Valley. I went out to Long Island for Sauvignon Blanc. And what I'm trying to do is kind of find the best vineyards. Binah Winery is very high quality wine, which hopefully you think so as well. And so I'm really trying to find the best fruit in the region. I'm focusing on the Mid-Atlantic region. I want to make cool climate wines. So I don't buy grapes from California. I don't buy grapes from South America. We're focusing here on the cool climate, the Mid-Atlantic region. And I'm trying to, over time, find the best vineyards, the best sources of fruit, and a lot of that is just word of mouth and making connections and having a network, and building up a reputation for yourself as a winery. And the more you have a reputation for producing a very high quality product, you'll actually get vineyards and wine growers, grape growers that actually seek you out. So over time, that's what I'm hoping to do.
Great. So that kind of goes into the next question. How do you market your wines?
In terms of where we sell them, how we sell them?
Well, will you share with everyone, right? You have your website. I mean, how do you get your name out there? You did share with me, you've been in, you've won some awards.
Yeah. So we sell our wines directly through our website. If you're local, you can certainly come up right over here to the winery and buy bottles and cases right here at the winery. You can order online through curbside pickup. We ship to about 40 states. There's some states that don't allow us to ship, but 40 states, we ship. And we're also, some of our wines are on kosherwine.com now. Some of the giant grocery stores in Philadelphia are picking us up starting this week. So we'll be in Wynwood this week, and their new flagship store at the Riverwalk in downtown Philly. They will start to carry some of our wines. And then we're at some smaller kosher stores around the state. So Murray Ave Kosher in Squirrel Hill, Pittsburgh, carry some of our wines. There's some smaller retailers up in Scranton that carry our wines. I think there was a synagogue in Harrisburg carries some of our wines. So that's what it's been so far, direct to consumer through us, through these online retailers. And now we're expanding into the stores. We hope to be in the restaurants once they open up after this pandemic. But really it's been word of mouth, so like you said, we won some awards at the Finger Lakes International Wine Competition last year. Our Viognier got an honorable mention at the PA Sommelier Judgment last October, placing us in the top 25 wines. And then just a few days ago, so if anybody's familiar, there's a Jewish Link news magazine in the tri-state area. They did their first ever Passover wine guide. Our Celeste was selected in the top 10 sweet white wines, and Stella was ranked number 7 best kosher white wine in the world. So
that's phenomenal. That's excellent. You need to share that article with everyone. That's really exciting.
Sure, yeah.
One of our guests asked, do you make any sweet wine like Moscato?
Yeah, so we did make a Muscat for 2019. That was quite a sweet wine. I only have a few bottles left here at the winery. So once those few bottles are gone, it's sold out. Kosherwine.com has the rest of our stock. They bought it. So if I sell out, then try kosherwine.com. We didn't have a Muscat for 2020, but we will have a Traminette to replace it here 2 or 3 months from now, probably. And that will be a sweet wine. And our Celeste is semi-sweet. But in general, I try to steer more towards the European style, dry, off-dry styles that many of the top wineries here in our part of Pennsylvania produce.
Great. There's another question. How did the pandemic affect you in your business?
Yeah, so we started making sales last March, about a week after COVID became a huge problem. That was not in my business plan at all. So I had to shift my perspective very quickly. Fortunately, we were able to do that because we were a new business. So we weren't established, and it was easier for us to pivot. And we've done very well throughout this pandemic. So as I said, we shipped a lot direct to customer through our website, shipping all over the country. And since we were kosher, and I had been on social media for a couple of years earlier, and there were people across the country following me on social media and just waiting for this wine to be ready. I already had a following and an audience across the country. And since we have this kosher niche market, we were shipping across the country in the first week that we were making sales. So that has a lot to do with our ability to survive this extremely challenging year. I mean, it was really trial by fire. I mean, to start your own business and to have COVID hit, there hasn't been any festivals. You couldn't do tastings. The restaurants were all closed. Yeah, it was very challenging. And, a lot of our peers in our industry have struggled for sure. But yeah.
So
We're very well positioned coming out of the pandemic, though, because of the quality of our wines, and we already have this reputation. So I'm very excited when this pandemic's over and we can go out and meet people and, talk in person. We won't be on Zoom anymore. We can pour our wines. I'm very excited.
Okay. Okay. So there was a couple other questions. Well, do you want to stop the screen share so you can, or you?
Sure. Well, that's the last one.
Right.
This is my contact information. So that's our website. That's my email if you want to get in touch with me, as well as our social media handles. So follow us on social media, go to our website, subscribe to our email. We don't spam people. I only send emails out when there's a new wine release, or there's a promotion or some actual news to tell. So don't be afraid to give us your email and sign up for the newsletter.
So we'll go to the questions if you want to stop screen sharing. Do you want to take that off and then we'll? Great. Okay. So there's a couple other questions and anyone else is welcome to send. They asked about purchasing the wine. So basically you go to the website, correct? And then on the website, you list the different types of wines, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then you offer, right.
If you need to ship to another state, select shipping. We ship UPS Crown. We have very, very good flat rate shipping. And if you buy 12 bottles or more, it's complimentary shipping. So that's a very good deal, I think. You can do curbside pickup. You can come into the winery as well if you wear a mask until the pandemic's over. Certainly just send me an email or direct message me on social media if you want to come over and buy some wine. Just set up an appointment Sundays through Friday and come on over. You can buy the wine directly out of the winery here.
Yeah, and I will add, it was super easy to find. I just put it in my GPS for anyone that knows Martin Luther King Parkway, where the recyclables and where I guess it's Allentown, the trash receptacles. It's just right down the street, and you're going to make a right up the hill near the Grand Prix Raceway. I don't know if anyone has gone to that go-kart raceway, where a lot of kids go. It's so easy to find, and Kevin was great. I just called him and he popped out. and I picked up. It was really nice, and we talked about Passover. So tell us, what do you have left for Passover if people are interested?
All the wines that are listed on our site, they're all available. So yeah, Passover's in less than 2 weeks, so make sure you get your wine. And also, if you don't want to buy a whole case of Binah, then certainly go to kosherwine.com. They carry 5 of our wines currently, and they'll be adding more as the year goes on.
I don't see where on your website it says the kinds of wines you carry. Do you have Pinot Grigio on there?
Click on shop.
Look on shop. I didn't look on shop. Okay.
Okay.
BinahWine.com/shop.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully you see a list of about, I think there's 10 wines or 8. I think maybe.
No. Oh, okay. Wait, I don't see it.
Eileen, I'll help you if you want after. So if anyone wants to help.
Yeah, I didn't get that. So
I do not have a Pinot Grigio, but the closest thing to a Pinot Grigio would be our Chardonnay. That's unopened. It's a lot like a Chablis or Stella.
Okay, good.
Okay, let me ask, will you mix if someone wants to buy a case, will you mix different wines into a case? Or do you have to buy a single?
No, absolutely. You can buy whatever wines you want and we'll mix and match. Any quantity you want and any.
So this is great. And I know, there are so many people who have connections to so many people on here. So the nice thing is to get your name out there and for us to share your name. Kevin, just tell a little bit about yourself and your family, if you don't mind. You live in the Lehigh Valley, right?
So we live in the West End, very close to the intersection of Cedar Crest and Tillman. We've lived there since late 2013, as I said. We're members of Congregation Sons of Israel. So my wife, Sarah, and I, and we have 3 boys, Lev, Max, and Oliver. And they're very young. So 2 of them go to JDS and the other one goes to JCC in the early childhood education. So yeah, that's our story. And
great. It's really nice. If anyone has any questions, we are getting messages. So someone really is excited. They wish you a mazel tov on your adventure. Someone else just said they bought 2 bottles of rosé. She's excited to try. Someone else said the wine's fantastic. Thanks for this presentation, Kevin. So that's really great.
Yeah. If you enjoy the wines and you really like the wines, then please tell your friends.
Absolutely. And hopefully when the pandemic ends, we could do wine tastings and you could, like you had said, to get a group together, and you could even do virtual. I mean, you can do wine tastings as a party or as a get together with friends or family. It's really nice. Does anyone have any other questions? I think, honestly, it was such a wonderful presentation. We have another message. Thanks for doing this. They're going to order this week. I had someone else just message me. They need to order. So I know anybody that didn't purchase will be purchasing. And I think it's also really nice to give as a gift, and it's a hidden gem. As so many of us said, Rance Block's on here. I know Rance said you went to college with his son, Josh.
Yeah, Josh, we knew Josh at Chabad and Hillel at Penn State. So.
Yeah, exactly. And Rance said, Rance and I just spoke the other day. I dropped off his wine to his office and he said, this is a hidden gem in our Lehigh Valley. We should feel so lucky that we have the wine, the kosher wine, and it's needed in so many places. It's just a bonus that it's great wine and kosher.
Or a wine that just happens to be kosher, so...
exactly.
There's kind of this misunderstanding out there in the world about kosher wine that it's inferior in quality. That was certainly true at one time, but over the past few decades, that has changed a lot. The first winery, Hagafen in California, to really set a new standard, and there's a lot of really high quality kosher wineries out there, that certainly rival our non-kosher counterparts. So from what I hear, we're probably in the top 10 wineries in Pennsylvania in terms of quality. certainly in the top kosher wineries in the world. So
It's amazing. Well, you've got a couple comments. People are super excited to have it at their Seder. So it couldn't, and Kevin and you and I spoke about having this program now before Passover so people can buy wine for Passover.
yeah, you put an order in, we're very quick to have it ready, potentially even that same day. In terms of shipping, if you're shipping somewhere else, we do UPS ground. I mean, it's one day from here to Maryland, New Jersey, New York. So if you want to ship to anyone there, I mean, it'll go out the next day, and within 2 days they'll have it.
So we have another question, if you don't mind. What's your favorite wine that you make?
I don't know. Maybe the Cab Franc. I really like the Chardonnay. Stella. I like them all.
What about your wife, Sarah?
Her favorite? I don't know. Is she on? She can answer.
Sarah was on. Sarah, what's your favorite?
Yeah, if anyone has a question.
I just came down. Hi.
Hi,
I
Sarah.
just came down I finally got the kids to bed. My favorite, Stella's probably my favorite. It's the dry white. It's just a really nice blend, and it's just really easy to drink. So I think
Right.
but they're all awesome, of course.
If anyone has any questions about the specific wines, then I'm certainly happy to answer them in terms of, how they're made or technique or anything like that even.
Is Stella dry like a Chardonnay? I've never heard of the Stella.
Yeah, so Stella, that's obviously a fanciful name. It's a blend of French American hybrid grapes. So in 2019, it was Saval Blanc, Chardonnay, and Vignoles. Chardonnay's parent is Chardonnay. Saval Blanc is a lot like a Sauvignon Blanc, and Vignoles just adds this very tropical flavor. So the idea behind Stella is that it's a dry white wine. It's for people who like dry white wine, like a Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. It's lightly oaked. It has a little bit of malolactic fermentation. I give you that soft palate, and also a little bit of butteriness in it. So that's what it is. It's designed to have a mass appeal for people who like dry white wine. And it's a blend of grapes from year to year. The blend changes slightly, but it's going to be in a very similar style from vintage to vintage.
Thanks. Okay. That sounds appealing.
Yeah, it's very much like a Chardonnay.
Awesome.
As opposed to our other Chardonnay, which is actually a Chardonnay. And that is made in an unoaked style. It's very much like a Chablis, so it's aged in stainless steel. However, for 2020, we will have a Lehigh Valley Chardonnay Reserve that is barrel aged. So we will have both styles of Chardonnay for those who like both.
Kevin, what is the rosé called?
Rosé wine.
No, someone said, what is the type that's the rosé?
What type of grapes?
No, the question she had was, you have a rosé on the website.
Yes.
It's just called rosé.
Yeah,
So-
rosé wine. Yeah, just rosé. So it's a blend.
It's a blend. Okay.
It's mostly Chambourcin, and Chambourcin is a French-American hybrid grape that's a teinturier. So it actually has red pigmented juice. Most red grapes have clear juice, and we get the color from the skins. Chambourcin has actual red juice. So that's why that rosé is so dark. And also I use the Saugny method, which is bleeding. We bleed some of the juice off from the early red wine fermentations, and then blend it in as well. So it's a dark rosé, it's dry.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there any other questions we have? I don't think so. Everyone is commenting. They love the presentation. They're wishing you the best of luck. Thanks so much for doing this. So I think
Good
you
luck.
were a big hit tonight in the JUniversity, JCC event. And I can tell you, I know a lot of people. I get texts as we're doing this, tell me how to help me go on the website. So anyone that needs help ordering, you guys could text me if you want, or ask Kevin.
If you go on our website at the top right, there's an email symbol, like an envelope. You can click on that. It'll go right to my email.
Great. So I think it was fantastic. And we really, really appreciate you spending the time with us. We know you have a young family and it's Sunday night. and we appreciate you guys. I get to see Sarah. I always see her at the drop-off line at the JDS. We're always back to back in the morning, so now I get to see her on Zoom. So before we go, I just want to share, we've got a few other JUniversity things coming up. On April 11th, we have Jeanette Jennings, is the mom, a proud mom of 4 with her daughter's transgender, and she's Jeanette is a huge activist for jazz. They were featured on Barbara Walters 2020. Then on May 5th, we have Joanna Kleiman, a psychotherapist, who wrote a book on dethroning your inner critic. Then we're bringing back the Auschwitz seminar that we sold out of. We're bringing back the Auschwitz seminar our Sunday, May 23rd. And then we end our JUniversity year in June with Mandy Licious, the challah guru that's coming from Boston. And that's making challah in a great shape, and it's going to be a really fun event. So we really appreciate everyone being here tonight. Shoot me an email if you have any questions. Kevin, we can't thank you enough. I know you're going to get a lot of emails and orders. Someone just said they love the how do you say this? Chambortion.
Chamberson.
They love it. So you already have people that are loving the wine, and people are super excited about it. So thank you again. We wish you much success with you and your family. And I could tell everyone was just amazed while they were watching it. Your hard work and dedication has paid off, and it's terrific that you're here. So
yeah, it's my pleasure to be on here. So thank you again, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, and we'll see you around, definitely, whether it's at the JDS, Sons, in the community, JCC. It's great to meet you. So thanks, everyone, for watching. Message me if you have any questions, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for doing this. This was great.
Oh, thanks. We're so glad everyone joined. So it was a really nice idea. And Kevin, thanks so much for making it work. And just the background was so interesting too, in the pictures. They were great. So perfect.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Beth, for all your hard work.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. I'll see you guys. Al, I'll speak to you. Enjoy. Harriet, if you need my help on the website, I'll help you tomorrow. Okay. Good night.
Good night.